Good day ABM learners. In this video lesson we will discuss the graphs and data presentation in business math. Data is the lifeblood of any business, but raw numbers can be overwhelming and difficult to interpret. Graphs and data visualizations are powerful tools that transform this data into clear, concise, and easily understandable formats. Throughout this session, we'll explore different types of graphs, their strengths and weaknesses, and how to choose the most appropriate one to effectively communicate trends, patterns, and insights hidden within your business data. Get ready to unlock the power of visual communication and transform the way you analyze and present business information. This video lesson will equip you with the following most essential learning competencies. 1. Describe the different kinds of graphs and their essential parts for data presentation. 2. Give a set of business data, identify the graphs to be used. 3. Draw the graph/table to present the data. 4. Analyze and interpret the data presented in a graph/table. Before we start, let's define first what is graph. A graph is a pictorial presentation or a diagram that represents data or values in an organized manner. The following are the types of graph or chart. 1. Line graph. 2. Bar graph. 3. Circle/pie graph. 4. Pictograph. Let us discuss first what is line graph. A line graph illustrates how related data changes over a specific period. One axis might display a value, while the other axis shows the timeline. Line graphs are useful for illustrating trends such as temperature changes during certain dates. The following are the essential components of a line graph. These components are crucial in understanding and interpreting the data represented in a line graph. Let's take a closer look at each part. Graph title. The graph title provides a clear and concise description of what the graph represents. It gives context to the data and helps the viewer understand the purpose of the graph. Y-axis title. The y-axis title indicates the measurement or variable being represented on the vertical axis. It provides clarity on what the values on the y-axis signify. Y-axis value. The y-axis values are the numerical markings along the vertical axis. They represent the range of the variable being measured. X-axis title. Similarly, the x-axis title describes the measurement or variable being represented on the horizontal axis. It helps in understanding the values on the x-axis. X-axis value. The x-axis values are the numerical markings along the horizontal axis. They represent the range or categories of the variable being measured. Legend. The legend is a key component, especially when dealing with multiple lines on the graph. It provides a clear explanation of what each line represents, ensuring that the viewer can interpret the data accurately. Line. Finally, the lines on the graph visually represent the data points. They display the relationship between the variables being measured and allow for easy identification of trends and patterns. Next is bar graph. What is bar graph? Bar graphs offer a simple way to compare numeric values of any kind, including inventories, group sizes, and financial predictions. Bar graphs can be either horizontal or vertical. One axis represents the categories, while the other represents the value of each category. The height or length of each bar relates directly to its value. The bar graph has all the parts of the line graph. In lieu of the line, the bars are plotted and erected on the x and y axis. You do not connect the data points, but bars are created instead of the line. Next is circle or pie graph. A circle/pie chart presents the different parts of a whole. It looks like a circle divided into many pieces, much like a pie cut into slices. The pieces are different sizes based on how much of the whole they represent. Each piece usually has a label to represent its value compared to the whole. As we prepare to create a pie chart, we have some compelling data to present. For instance, let's consider the total sales of Puerto Princesa Mall, which are meticulously outlined in the subsequent table. In the furniture department, sales have impressively amassed to a total of 800,000 pesos. To appliances, the sales have skyrocketed to a staggering 1,500,000 pesos. The clothing department has not been left behind, with sales striking a notable 3 million pesos. The supermarket has experienced a solid sales performance, racking up 4 million pesos. Lastly, the others category has seen an extraordinary 7 million pesos in sales. We will now calculate the ratio of each department to the total entries as a percentage. Since the total sales amount to 10 million pesos, each amount in each category will be divided by this total. For example, in the furniture department, with the total sales of 800,000 pesos, this amount will be divided by the total sales to obtain its portion of the total sales. So, 800,000 pesos divided by 10 million pesos is 800ths. To convert this to a percentage, we will multiply by 100, resulting in 8%. The same process applies to the other departments. Now this the constructed pie or circle graph representing the total sales of Puerto Princesa Mall. Can you name what are the parts of this pie graph? The parts of the pie graph are slices. Slices of different sizes are marked on a circle based on what part of the whole they represent. Each slice represents a distinct piece of data, and the size of each slice is directly proportional to the number of data points that belong to a particular category. Title. The title of the pie chart helps the reader understand what they are about to see. Legend. The legend shows the description of each slice in the pie chart, helping the reader comprehend the information that the pie chart offers. Data. The most essential part of a pie chart is its information or data. Data is displayed in pie charts as a percentage of 100, and each slice represents a distinct piece of data. Last is pictograph. A pictograph uses pictures or symbols to display data instead of bars. Each picture represents a certain number of items. Pictographs can be useful when you want to display data in a highly visual presentation such as an infographic. To construct a pictograph, the following steps are to be followed. Collect the necessary data. Round off numerical data. Choose an appropriate symbol to represent the subject. Indicate the quantity each symbol represents. Here is an example of a pictograph. Can you name the parts of a pictograph? The parts of a pictograph include symbols or images. Pictographs use symbols or images to represent data. Each symbol or image in the pictograph represents a certain number of things, making it a visually appealing way to convey information about the provided data. Next is the key. A key is often included in a pictograph to indicate what each symbol or image represents. The key is used to find the frequency of the information the graph depicts for a particular category. The key or numerical value must be written along with the pictograph. And then, labels. Labels are used to provide additional information and context for the graph. They may include titles for the axes, labels for the data points, and any other relevant information. How to interpret line graphs? When interpreting a line graph, it's important to look at the x-axis, horizontal axis, to understand the time period or categories being represented, and the y-axis, vertical axis, to understand the scale of the data being measured. The points on the graph represent specific data values, and the lines connecting them show the trend or pattern of change over the given time period or categories. Now for bar graph, the height or length of each bar represents the quantity or frequency of the category or data value it represents. It is important to pay attention to the scale of the y-axis to accurately interpret the differences in bar lengths. When interpreting a pie chart, each sector's size represents the proportion of the whole it represents. The angle of each sector is proportional to the percentage it represents out of the total 360 degrees of the circle. It's important to pay attention to the labels or legends to understand what each sector represents. When interpreting a pictograph, the images or symbols represent the quantity or frequency of the data values. It's important to pay attention to the key or legend to understand the relationship between the images and the data they represent. Pictographs are visually appealing and can make data interpretation more engaging, but it's crucial to ensure that the images accurately represent the data. In summary, interpreting graphs involves understanding the type of graph being used, paying attention to the axes, scales, and legends, and accurately interpreting the visual representations of data. Each type of graph has its own unique characteristics and requires specific attention to different elements for accurate interpretation. Now, let's try to interpret this one. Saturday afternoons are a mix of relaxation, chores, and personal pursuits. Around 30% of the time is spent relaxing, followed by 30% on housework. Social media browsing occupies 20% of the afternoon, while 10% is dedicated to both homework and a side hustle. How about this one? The population data for Southeast Asian countries in 2020 is as follows. Indonesia had a population of 273 million, making it the most populous country in the region, followed by the Philippines with 109 million, and Vietnam with 97 million. Thailand had a population of 70 million, Myanmar 54 million, and Malaysia 32 million. Cambodia's population was 17 million, Laos had 7 million, and Singapore had 5.8 million. Brunei had a population of 0.4 million, while Timor-Leste's population was 1.3 million. This provides a comprehensive overview of the population distribution across Southeast Asia. It's time to retrieve your notes and respond to the following activities. For Activity 1. Identify the type of graph for each of the following titles: bar graph, line graph, pie/circle graph, or pictograph. 1. The monthly budget of the Dela Cruz family. 2. Gasoline prices throughout the year 2019. 3. The sales products of Company X and Company Y. 4. The number of registered cars using gasoline from 2010 to 2020. For Activity 2. Identify the appropriate type of graph, bar, line, pie, or pictograph, to be used for the following requirements. 1. Comparing data across different categories. 2. Displaying percentages or proportional data. 3. Illustrating changing trends over time. 4. Depicting the frequency of data using visuals, with each picture representing one or more units of data. For Activity 3. From the provided business data, on the following slides, just choose 2 to make from Table 1 to 4. 1. Determine the suitable graph/chart to utilize. 2. Create the graph to present the data. 3. And then analyze and interpret the data presented in the graph. For Activity 4. Use the following graphs to answer the questions on the upcoming slides. Questions. 1. Which country has a population of about 60 million? Which graph did you use and why? 2. Which graph best shows the actual population of each country? Explain. 3. What can you learn from each type of graph that the other type doesn't tell you?